As a small business owner, you deserve more. More confidence, more connectivity, more of the tools that help your business thrive. And at Cox Business, you can expect more from us. We don't just have sales reps. We have perfect plan identifiers. People who will work with you to make sure your business gets everything it needs and nothing that it doesn't. Your business deserves more, and that's why you can expect more from Cox Business. Call 800-526-8572 to switch today.
There's nothing more predictable in life than the unexpected. Lightning will always strike. Hail will fall on roofs. Fortunately, there's AAA. AAA has been helping members stay prepared for over 100 years. So when unusual storms, fallen debris, or sudden leaks happen, you'll be covered. Check, check, and check. Get the home and auto insurance you need by talking with a AAA insurance agent today. Visit AAA.com/insurance or stop by your local AAA store.
If you prefer real mornings, shouldn't you have a real breakfast? At McDonald's, we get real about breakfast. That's why you can have a savory sausage biscuit with delicious hash browns for only $1.50. It's time to wake up breakfast. Single item at regular price. Prices and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal.
Thoughts of suicide may feel impossible to overcome. But with help and support, you can find hope and meaning. Call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK to speak to a counselor, or visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org. It's free, it's confidential, it's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And even if it feels like it, you're not alone.
It's been a long, bumpy ride sitting back in the saddle. It's time to get down, dirty up our knees in the battle. Oh, come on, round up the boys, gonna make the walls rattle. Oh, our flag is tattered and our bones are shattered, but it doesn't matter 'cause we're moving forward. Round them up, let's go. Round them up, let's go.
Everywhere. You're not coming through? Hello. I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hello, audience. Can you hear me?
They just can't hear me.
I can't hear you. What did you do?
I said, where Antifa at?
They're everywhere.
They are all over the friggin' place. Good evening. I promised you guys a story tonight, and my buddy Orty Packard is gonna help me tell it.
Yeah, there's a lot of... Yeah, this is stuff that we've kind of nibbled around the edges on in one way or another, and, you know, how to protect yourself, but this is... the big chunk of the show is going to be how it's protecting you... Or actually, how about this? How it's screwing Antifa.
Hold on a second.
This program contains coarse language and adult themes. Parental discretion is advised. Naughty words and booze. These are like Zastrovia.
Okay, now I can say what I want to say. This is how you use the technology that we tell you how to hide from to catch a motherfucker or two. How's that?
Yeah, I was actually dancing around the this is gonna rat fuck the anarchists.
Yeah, this is how to rat fuck the anarchist with the guy. That this is going to be such a nasty show. I can already tell because I can't talk about these people without using a ton of nasty words. Can you?
Okay, I'm a minarchist. I like as small government as possible. But the one thing that what really grinds my gears, to
Tell
use a
me.
Peter Griffin phrase, is fucking ANCOMs and ANSOCs, anarcho-communists and anarcho-socialists.
Uh-huh.
Just piss me the
Because
fuck
it's a
off.
fucking lie. It's an
Yeah.
oxymoron. You can call yourself whatever you want to call yourself, but that doesn't mean that that thing actually exists, because you cannot be a socialist or a communist and an anarchist at the same time. It is not possible. That much government does not exist in anarchy.
Well, we're
Sorry.
just talking about communes and things. Yeah, here's the thing, though. History shows that you're going to get taken for a walk out into the woods, and all you've done is just bring about a repressive totalitarian regime.
They're not
Every
just
goddamn time.
they're not just talking about communes and things. So they're talking about a country that's a commune that provides them with college and food and iPhone 11s and every other
Is
fucking
it
thing
11
they
now?
want. That's what they're talking about. Okay, so we're going to talk about why, and I love you guys probably more than you love me, but I know you've seen my Twitter timeline, and I know that you've seen me talk. I don't know who's in chat, but I know that our friends are there. The ones that see my timeline and have seen me talking about actually trolling them. Antifa Atlanta blocked me because I kept telling them the government's in your cell phones. How can you not know that the government is listening to everything that you're doing, because you're tearing down complete cities, and not just, little cities, not just Raleigh. If it was just like Raleigh and Minneapolis, the government probably wouldn't care, but they are terrorizing New York, Washington, D.C. They are.
I don't know. LA riots when the Lakers win, so that's
Right, yeah. This is not...
or lose. Well, it doesn't matter.
Every city in the U.S. is like Oakland after the Raiders win the Super Bowl, or Denver after the Broncos win the Super Bowl, or some stupid shit like that. But anyway, so let's move on. The government is so far up in these idiots' electronics. You probably have an idea, and we're going to get into the meat of it. So I don't know which one. There's so many different ways that they can do it. I want to kind of talk about it in an order that makes sense to me.
Yeah, well, let's start with the most prolific and the most, I don't want to say controversial, because it's the kind of thing that makes conservatives bristle that it exists, and obviously the ACLU, because that's the source of one of our some of the topic.
One of our
but because it's very intrusive, but it's also the one that, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. This is the thing the liberals wanted. This is what they've pushed for, because if you look at the majority of the states that use it, with the exception of Nevada and Texas and Florida and Georgia, yeah, but they're pretty liberal states. New York and Virginia, Tennessee, Washington. So, and that is the Stingray.
But it is also the first step in the chain.
Yes.
Say what you were going to say about Stingray. I'm going to let you.
This is the one that everybody knows about. This is the one that there was a lot of brouhaha about in the last couple of years, about how it's it's an infringement on privacy. So states like California, police departments have to have a warrant to use the Stingray system. And California is one of the few states that both state and city law enforcement have the Stingray system. What the Stingray system is it's a unit. It used to be the size of a van. Now it can fit into a basic squad car, where it tricks all the cell phones in the range into thinking that it's a cell tower, and it just hoovers up metadata, phone history, GPS coordinate, GPS history, and it can collect up to 10,000.
10,000 phones.
Yeah, 10,000 phones in at a time.
Yeah, and it passes through. And think of it this way: it's like passing your personal traffic on your home network through your wireless to your modem. It passes all the cell traffic in an area, whatever it's hoovered up, as Orty called it, which I really like that term, by the way. Everything gets hoovered up, it passes through the Stingray to the cell tower and back. So it bounces everything. Everything that bounces back and forth from that cell tower goes through that Stingray.
This does the main thing it grabs is the IMSI off your phone, which, if you remember an older show where we talked about your MAC address, the IMSI is essential for how cell phones work. It's so that way it's difficult for other people to spoof your phone and get your phone calls and your text messages and everything. It's the unique identifier for your cell phone.
And it includes your carrier identifier too. So it's
correct.
Yeah, it's like your unique ID with your carrier. And when it bounces back and forth through that straight Stingray, it carries your device information and your carrier information and basically who you are. So when my IMSI goes through the Stingray, it says, "Oh, that's Cyber Princess. We know her. She uses Verizon." So
she had, yeah,
and everything we know about her.
She has been along this route in the last 45 minutes.
Yes, this is everywhere she's been in the last 45 minutes or the last 2 hours or whatever, is however long it's your carrier is caching that information. I don't really even know what it is. I know what's in your phone, your location history, the SID from the tower that gets recorded on your phone goes back. It can go back a long way, right? Like I did one forensic lab that was, I think I had 3 months worth of location data on that cell phone. So it can be a really long time. But this is a lot of forensics that we're talking about. And so what Orty just described with the IMSI, the reason that's the first thing in the chain is when, let's say, there's one of these devices on Union Square in New York. And if you've been watching the riots, you know that that's kind of been a hot spot. There's another one down in Soho. They're picking up all of these very unique identifiers for people. They're phones, but they go back to the carrier. So it is a person. It's identifying an actual person. And once they have that, they know who you are. So they can identify, they can match that up with all of the other stuff that we're going to talk about. They know where to go to get everything else that we're going to talk about, right? So they say, "Oh, that there is Orty Packard. Now we know that's him. We can go get his Google ID, his Google account. We can get all this other information that we're going to use to track him and follow him. We can go get that now because we know who he is." Does that make sense?
See, now one of the things that I started out with was, when I talked about, like in California, where they have to have a court order. That's very common through most of the states, is that in order for the police to use this item, they have to get a court order. And the courts are very reluctant to give these court orders out unless you get into like a San Bernardino or a Pulse nightclub or a 9/11 type thing. Mm-hmm. However, you do not need to have a warrant during a state of emergency.
Exactly.
Like a pandemic or civil unrest.
Yes, and a lot of these mayors have already declared states of emergency. You know why? That's how they get their disaster money.
Yeah, we were already in a state of emergency for the last 3 months.
Well, that's true. That is absolutely true. And the other thing, and I'm going to try to read these as fast as I can. Well, actually not. I'm just going to give you the important ones. The U.S. Secret Service uses these devices. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, sort of important, the U.S. Army, U.S. Navy, the Marine Corps, the U.S. National Guard,
the United States Coast Guard, United States Space Force, the Department of Homeland Security, National Security Agency,
the IRS. But what's really important, the Secret Service. Come on, they do whatever they want to, wherever they want to, for all the reasons that we already know that I do not have to explain. Now, what is not on here is, the FBI is on here, and what's under the FBI? Counterterrorism. What did Trump, what do they keep telling us they're doing? They are treating Antifa as terrorists. When the Attorney General made his speech 2 days ago, or was it yesterday? I forget. Really doesn't matter.
It was yesterday. God, yeah. Everything's just been flying the last few days, hasn't it?
I know, but it really doesn't matter because that's when he told us about it. They were already doing it. I'm pretty sure they started doing it when the second or third city popped up, if not before. But the other thing that you have to remember is they have been tracking a lot of these people and treating these people as terrorists.
I could feel your air quotes.
Oh my God, did you? You did, because I did do air quotes. Damn it, Orty. Anyway, so they've been treating them as terrorists for quite a while, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Most of it came right out of their stinking mouths. So let's move on to the next way. So now they're on the scene, and they've been using that, I'm sure, because of the last two things that I said, that they've used these in plenty of situations where Antifa popped up. And you can think about places where they might have popped up that aren't California, aren't Oregon, let's say probably in Charlottesville, and how close that is to maybe, I don't know, Quantico. And, they were picking up, I'm positive they had these devices out in Charlottesville picking up everything they needed to pick up. They've been tracking these people for a while because of, for all the reasons that we already know. We've been watching their subversive actions for how long, right? So I don't necessarily, I'm the same as you. I'm a minarchist. You and I are probably, we're a million miles from these people, but we're way closer to anarchists than they will ever be.
Sure.
Right. So, I'm not there yet, but I'm closer than they are. So and so I don't necessarily like it either. When it comes to terrorism, unless you're calling the farmer that has 4 more guns than you think he should have a terrorist. When it comes to terrorism, we're talking about real terrorism. We're talking about decimating Soho and downtown Atlanta and half the cities, half of the really large cities in this country, looting stores, then, literally trying to destroy our economy. I can be okay with it for a minute, right? And that's scary. It's still scary to me, but these people need to go. So, they need to go like ISIS needed to go. So
where we talked about Stingray being the most prolific one, that is active surveillance. That is one that you need to have a court order for. That is, they are spoofing being a cell tower and routing all traffic through it. The next level is what's called an IMSI catcher. Now, these are they're not as common, and what these ones do is that they are passive. They wait for a cell signal to enter their field, where it's like, with a Stingray, you could drive down a city block and pick up everybody's cell traffic through there. This one is more of a stationary post, like, say, at a police station or an intersection in a transformer. And what this does is any cell signal that passes through it, it sniffs out the IMSI on it and then can decode and occasionally decrypt all traffic going through it. Now, these ones don't always require a court order to use. because they're passive. They're not an active form of investigation. They are a passive form of investigation.
And very effective, right?
And very effective.
Very effective. And accomplish a lot, really the same thing. So they're catching the communications and they're identifying the person. So they know, and this was actually something that I tweeted, they know where you are and they know what you're saying.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay.
I know a few messaging applications that they may not be able to decrypt. There's no guarantee, because that changes whether or not they're able to decrypt certain communications, changes all the time, and exploits come along and they can get to them, so no guarantee.
Apps for your phone that will detect a stingray, like Snoop Snitch, but they're not really that effective. But because they don't know whether, a stingray just drove by or if you just happen to jump cell towers for whatever. They don't really do. But the IMSI sniffers, because they are passive, Snoop Snitch and apps like that don't catch them.
Yeah. And I mean, there's lots of tutorials and, things like, and things like that on identifying spying. They actually have virtual reality devices that can teach you how to identify. I wouldn't trust that. I mean, I just wouldn't. The government is going to, we talked about this before, the government's going to find a way to snoop on you. And there are so many more ways. So once they have your IMSI and they've identified you and they know that you're there causing trouble, there are so many other ways that they can get into. And one thing I want to make sure that we have time for, because I want everybody to know this, you can turn your location tracking and your location services off on all of your apps on your phone. Turn off everything that you think tracks you, but you can still be tracked. So it doesn't really matter, right, Orty?
Yeah, one of the things that actually impressed me with this while we were researching this is that while you can turn all of your geolocation services off, there's still things that your phone uses. Like if you have a fitness app on your phone or say a hiking app, it can use the barometric pressure recorded by your phone for that app to determine where you were, not with the same level of accuracy as triangulation through cell towers, but still knowing that you were in the Savannah, Georgia area and your phone recorded a barometric pressure of this. Well, at that point of day, at this time, the barometric pressure in this neighborhood was that, and in that neighborhood. So that narrows you down into one of these two neighborhoods.
Yep. The other thing that I didn't see this in any of the articles that we read, but I found this in forensics, is every application has a database. And we actually have to use SQL scripting to find some of this stuff, but depending on the app. But every application on your phone has a database, and it records a lot of information about, just like what Orty was saying was probably in the database for the fitness app. So you would have to go to that database and find that information, but then you can pinpoint to at least a radius where the person was. Well, the other thing that I found and learned in forensics is that sometimes when you tell your phone that you don't want to use the location, like it pops up and says on an iPhone anyway, this app wants to use your location, and you say no, sometimes the app doesn't necessarily hear that.
Or care. It
depends. They're supposed to, but they don't always.
Now, a question a question from chat on this. What if you take your SIM card out? Generally, in most instances, your phone is a brick because all of the apps require a SIM card in it. It's an anti-theft.
And if you're talking about swapping your SIM card, now your IMSI is on the SIM card. However, a cell tower and a Stingray and most of the other devices use both your IMSI and your serial number on your phone to identify you. So it's not going to help.
Yeah, and the thing with the $10 burner, we were actually going to talk about that too, is that in the instance of like Antifa, sure, a $10 burner phone will work. It'll still track everything you do, but if you're just going to throw it in the trash afterwards, it doesn't matter. Who cares?
Absolutely.
But what we were joking about before the show came on is that you've got all these, teenage, early 20 Antifa, cosplayers who are out there with their iPhone 11s and their Android 20s that you can't take the battery out of, that you can't really change the SIM card on, and they're TikToking and they're periscoping their illegal activities
and they're recording,
and recording and you've got a big enough problem with Android and Apple apps that will turn on your microphone anyway. FaceTime is notorious for that. I mean, that's a huge security flaw that can be exploited by the government, saying, okay, well, we know this person uses FaceTime, so let's just go ahead and turn their microphone on while they're discussing sedition over in front of that target that they're about to bust into.
Yeah, and that that's but the other thing that we were joking about before the show with regards to that is that you have 100 or 200 of these idiots at one protest. At least there's probably 500 of them in New York. It wouldn't surprise me at all. So you will never convince me that all 500 of those idiots got a brand new burner before they got there, because once you take that from one protest to the next protest, they've tracked you from one to the other because they picked you up at the first one and they picked you up at the second one. So that burner, you'd have to have a brand new burner every time, or they already know who you are, right? Because they're going to connect you one way or another, and here's how. Once they get one person and then a second person, and then a third person, they're networking them anyway, because that's part of how you handle intelligence. That's very important intelligence information to network.
And this is the way that we have caught many terrorist cells in the United States. Because there's always one guy who, I forgot and brought my regular phone instead of my burner.
Well, yeah, or, I forgot and called my mom from my burner. That's the other thing these dumbasses.
Mom, I'm going to be home late. I'm doing an anarchy.
Right, yeah, but that's the other thing that these dumbasses will do. They'll call their friend or they'll text their mom or whatever from their burner phone, and they're busted right there. You text a phone number and say, "Hey, Mom," well, we know who that is.
Right.
I mean, it's so actually being invisible is harder than people think.
And even then, even if you do everything to mask your phone, you're still got apps. If you've got a burner phone, say you've got a track phone, but you're still using Twitter, your app is giving you away. You take a picture, your GPS location is imprinted. Even if you turn location services off, it's still imprinted on the photo. It's really hard to go and turn that shit off on a phone.
Yeah, you can't. You'll think it's off and it'll still be working. But here's the most important thing about about using a burner phone and an event like this. You're going to get picked up. When you get picked up, you're going to have that phone on you. How many have they arrested so far? They picked up 100 in Dallas last night.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
They've arrested hundreds of people already. They've got all of their cell phones. How much intel do you think they got off those cell phones? If they caught someone coming out of Chanel last night with armfuls of $1,000 suits, and they had a cell phone on them, it could have been a brand new burner phone. They probably took down 15 people with it, if not 50.
Just by location. I mean, just by this
contacts, group messages. These people are communicating in groups because they're
coordinating.
Nothings. Yeah, they're coordinating for one thing, and they're 20 nothings, and that's what they do. The other thing that we learned in the past 24 hours is that they're using bike scouts to scout a location, and if the location is clear, the crooks come in, or the looters come in and loot the area. How do you think they're communicating with the looters? Group messages.
Group text, any number of apps.
Yes.
So.
And the one thing that I also can tell you from forensics is if you think that your WhatsApp and Signal and Telegram and those encrypted communications are hidden from forensics, they are not. I can get to those messages, and there's multiple tools that will get to those messages, and the cops love them.
and this is why you'll always hear about what a big fight it is that cops want someone. They want Apple to unlock a phone. In that the treasure trove of information in your cell phone it's staggering. The amount of information that it collects. And you think that you're getting, I want to get the 128 gig version of my phone because I, play a lot of games and I need the space on it. They love that because the bigger the storage you have on your phone, the more shit they can put into it.
Yeah. Now, this is the most important thing to me. And it may, other people might not think so because your Google and your regular apps can track you. You can turn off everything. It can track you. The only way to keep from being tracked through these devices and technology and, just Googling your apps and all of that is to put it in a Faraday bag, or like someone in chat said, take the SIM card out altogether, but then it's no good to you. Then you can't use it at all. Or put it in a Faraday bag. That's the only way that you can do that with a phone that's not like an ancient Android.
Right, and we were talking about it before the show. I still use a Samsung 5S Active, and I can pull the battery out of it.
Right, exactly.
So
that's like the third way, and it's a very rare way because who has that anymore?
Right. Yeah, a lot of phones you can't even take the battery out now. So
right, and so the most important piece of this to me is the fact that the government has malware or software. They call it software. I call it malware because it acts like malware. It doesn't matter that the government is using it. It's still malware. Once they have your phone in their, once they know the information that they get from your EMSI, they can, without you having any clue, install software on your phone without your permission, just because you have it on. Like if you're talking on it, you've unlocked it, boom, they're in. And once they're in, they can do whatever they want. They can turn your mic on, listen to conversations that you're having. They get your text messages. They can keylog you, right? So it doesn't matter that your messages are encrypted. They get everything that you're saying. And they probably know who's talking to you because they're in their phone and they have everything they're saying. Unless you're talking to your mom. They're probably not in your mom's phone because that might be a Fourth Amendment violation. Unless your mom's an Antifa.
Yeah, right. One of the things that, using an example of stuff that we watched from video this weekend, was you saw the Antifa paymaster who was paying people to go and start vandalizing and looting and rioting. If he had a phone on him, I don't know. But one of the people he was paying did because they were recording getting paid. So it's really no trouble at all to track that back, and then you can track right back through the chain of command. Well, okay, here's 3 cell phones. We know about these 2. Those were the guys that he paid. So this third one here, we're going to have to assume that it's him. Oh, look, the dumbass has a Twitter account, looks just like him. So that's that guy because we've matched the Twitter account to his mobile device. So there's that guy. Now let's go up to the chain and see who else he's been talking to.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how they'll present it in court. But the way they collected it is probably a lot more digital than that. I mean, you know what I mean? They tracked them. But at any rate, so I did not.
We'll get a break and then we'll come back and wrap this up.
Yeah, I did not see that though, Orty. I didn't see that payment. I didn't see that payment thing. Was that?
Yeah, I'll try and find the video and I'll send it to you afterwards.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay, we're gonna.
They already figured out who his Twitter account was too.
All right, so we're gonna go to break because Orty said so, and and we'll be right back.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq, Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is, if getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
With you. My life's a bit more colder. Damn wife is what I told her. Brass knife sticks to my shoulder. Oh, babe, don't know what I'm gonna do.
Ooh, we're back. We were just talking about how much fun that was, because that was fun for us. I hope it was fun for you guys. So there's still a couple more ways or a few more ways, and there's probably lots more ways that they can track you. One thing I did want to mention is that I did see something online. I actually quote tweeted it and said good. But there was a predator drone spotted flying over, according to the news report, flying over, I think, Minneapolis. And
they've got kits for stingrays or IMSIs in them too.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
So.
And I was like, good. And even if it's not doing anything but a flyover.
Rand Paul's worst fears are come true. Don't drone me, bro.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Some president might do that, obviously, because Obama did. But I mean, I can't see Trump ever doing that. Maybe I'm wrong about him, but I just can't see that happening. He's trying to get us out of wars. So, they can just track your mobile signal from the tower. In severe national security cases, they absolutely would and could do that. And some cell phone carriers are more friendly to the government with stuff like that too. Right? And
yeah. Those are called tower dumps, where all the information from that particular cell tower is dumped, because it retains all the data, just like everything else we were talking about. It retains all that data too of what passed through it, and I think those only purge 30, 60 days.
Yeah, 30 to 60, I think. And the interesting thing is, and I think it depends on who's running it, right, and what their policy is. But
sure.
The important thing about that to this conversation is that these are relatively, comparatively, stationary situations. So there's a limited number of cell towers that are pinging these phones in these locations. It would be, in my mind, and this is not what I do for a living, but in my mind, it would be a highly effective thing to do, to dump the towers in certain locations where these guys are, because you know where they are, because they are obnoxiously obvious everywhere that they are. So it would be a highly effective way to get information.
And one of the legacy things that cell towers do, and this goes back to the old days, it's still in there, for helping improve service, would be it tracks the cell tower that it just took the handshake from with the mobile device. So when you're moving your mobile device, it's communicating to this one cell tower, and then you kind of move into the predominant signal of the next cell tower. There's a handshake that goes through where it's handed off from one to the other. And so not only does it track what's in that area, it also tracks all the comings and goings from the cell towers around it. So even with a cell tower, like say downtown Minneapolis or downtown Atlanta or Washington, D.C., you think, well, there's only those 3 cell towers there, blah, 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 blah. Well, no, it's handing off to, it's exponential. So those 3s go out to 9, those 9 go out to 81. You get the idea.
Yeah. Whereas in contrast to that, if it were a situation where a single actor or target was moving from New York to Miami, dumping every tower along the way doesn't make much sense at all. However, if with what happened in Soho last night, to dump the towers in the vicinity of from Union Square to Soho and get all of everything that these idiots did, Makes sense to me. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's too much data. There is a matter of data overload. So they know
There's a lot of sifting.
Yeah, there's a lot there, and there's a lot of data there. But again, they know who they're dealing with. They've more than likely had the unique IDs for all these guys' devices since the damn thing started. So, so there's that. There's Bluetooth tracking, which is how they're doing. You said the two. You said this was going to tie together, right? Which is how the they're doing the COVID-19 contact tracing.
Yeah, no, this is okay. Now, all of the fist bumping and cool, get those Antifa fucks we've been doing. Here's the downside of that. We've been in a state of emergency for 3 months. Everything we just talked about that they have been doing for Antifa, they have been doing for all of us. They say, okay, go ahead and get this contact tracing app if you want to participate in contact tracing. You have been participating in contact tracing for the last 3 months.
Right.
So.
Except for me, because I keep my Bluetooth off. But.
No. That's not Bluetooth. That's just using all the same things that we just talked about for them.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Bluetooth pairing is something else that's kind of a pain in the, but it can be used. But no, so everywhere that you've been, when you've gone to the store and everybody you've been in contact with and everything, they say, well, you download this app to participate in contract. They know, okay, and that's why they haven't let it really be known, because there isn't a lot of COVID out in the wild. A lot of the COVID is in nursing homes. So, hey, we'll see. Apparently going to the beach is bad, but going to a protest is okay. So, we'll see.
I think that might end up to be a problem in, say a week, and it won't be good anymore. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. The and I don't. We don't know exactly what they're doing with these technologies or any other technologies with regards to contact tracing, but I think it's reasonable to have.
We can assume. It's like I said, everything that we just laid out for tracking terrorists
can be used.
That's everybody.
Yeah, and what I'd like to think, and again, this is from the master's program that I'm in, and we're actually doing Fourth Amendment search warrants and digital devices right now this semester. So what I'd like to think is that if they are doing that I'd like to think they're not, because it would be a Fourth Amendment violation in my mind to go.
Not in a state of emergency.
Yeah, for every single person in the country, I would have to think that it would, and not to get into the whole thing, but that doesn't mean that they don't do things, in situations like that, get away with it for a little while. Hope they don't get caught. I absolutely think that they do that, but I think that if it ever got out and it ever got challenged in court, I think they get their hand slapped for it, or at least I'd like to think so.
You have heard of Edward Snowden, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd like to think, and they did get their hand slapped for that. So, anywho,
sure.
Let's talk about this. We were just so happy that we could, scare the hell out of y'all, or or depress the hell out of you, but just, it's sometimes all of this really scary technology can be used for good, and I like, if they're gonna have it and they're gonna use it, at least they're friggin' listening to Antifa with it. There you go. Let's talk about Microsoft. Your favorite.
It's the thing that, it's like we talk about, the splitting of the atom is good for nuclear energy and bad for nuclear bombs. So all technology is a double-edged sword. So our recommendation, it's like everybody gives me shit for using Alexa, but I just don't talk about my sedition next to her. I leave my phone on my bed and go outside.
Right, exactly. CERN is
So-
the devil, but it is
Yeah.
a scientific
Right.
advancement.
Yeah.
Right.
If you want to be 100% safe 100% of the time, just leave your cell phone at home. Or just don't take it with you when you're off doing, if you're not doing anything wrong, you don't have to be worried about it. Well, you know what? No, just don't take your cell phone.
Actually, if you want to be 100% safe and private 100% of the time, live off the grid.
Yeah, go to a cave.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So we
Get
are
off
so,
because
we're
don't mail the bomb. I'm not
I
saying
know.
mail bomb.
Right. But we're so far down this rabbit hole already. I don't think there's any getting out of it. So let's talk about Microsoft. Speaking of spies.
This is it seems like when we started the show, I was all doing AMD fanboy shit because there was a whole lot of AMD news coming out at the time. They had just done some revolutionary things. Microsoft, we were talking about it before the show. I guess since Bill Gates left, they actually care about security. Because we've always joked about how it's the Swiss cheese of operating systems, but now in their new Microsoft 365, which is what they have named Office 365, they are including a service called ATP, and I really had to be careful saying that as often as we say APT. I didn't want to screw it up, but ATP is Advanced Threat Protection, and what it is. The simplest way to explain it is that any file that has macros or Visual Basic or anything in it, when you open it, before it runs on your computer, it is sandboxed, and the term they use is detonated, where it is run to see if it does anything malicious, if it runs any scripts that try to connect to command and control servers, URLs, malicious Visual Basic that tries to take over kernel function, any number of those things that we always talk about. Dumbass opened a Word document and got, the ransomware, got the COVID on their computer. So this it detonates it. It runs it, makes sure that it's good before it even runs on your computer. It takes the data if it detonates one and finds the malware and sends it to the team to help identify it out in the wild, so that way if they detonated one over in England on a healthcare provider's Word document, about it within minutes because your computer will not open that file now. So that's a handy little thing. It's rolling out, as near as I can tell, it's going to be in the enterprise functions of Windows 365, which is the corporate environments, but the pricing is such at $1.25 per user per month, it makes me think that it will be available to personal and family accounts too, because that's pretty low price for something that they're planning on just selling to at enterprise level.
So, and this is what I asked you before. So they have the security that you can buy, and it comes with multiple things, right? So you buy the extra security, and you get lots of stuff with it. So it's not. It's
an additional layer of protection because you have Windows Defender plus whatever malware scanner and antivirus you're using on your computer, and then you also have Screen Share for your browsing. You have your OneDrive security for your documents, which is now being sold as a anti-ransomware. Where you can have OneDrive backup nearly your whole computer, because with Microsoft 365, you get 6 terabytes of storage,
which is
on
huge.
the personal level. So
That's
so it's becoming a Swiss Army knife in and of itself. They're doing the iCloud thing. They're doing the a lot of the things that Apple has been doing forever. Now there's that.
Cool. And there was some other news with them too, right?
We've been talking about the last few weeks the Windows 10 2004 update, which, thank you for being so fucking confusing. But one of the things that it's doing now, and this is actually, if you've ever tried to run an update on Windows and then all of a sudden you get stuck on that little spinning wheel and it just won't install no matter what you do. The reason for that usually has, especially with Windows 10, has been to try and make sure all of your drivers and apps are current enough to run the new operating system, so that way you don't get any blue screens of death. The downside was it never really told you why it was hanging up on the installation. Now, new with this thing, it will tell you, hey, your video drivers are laughably out of date. You need to update those before we can install this service pack. Otherwise, you're going to get a blue screen of death. Or saying, hey, you haven't updated your Windows since Obama was president. You need to do that before we can install this. So it's a nice little, it tells you why it's not installing.
Which is really awesome. And they're, it's like I told you this before the show too. They are doing what, and even I am impressed, and you know that Windows is sometimes, but not always, it's my third favorite operating system. I'll put it that way.
Out of two.
Out of four, actually, and it is my third favorite. So, but the other one was like beta, and I haven't tried it again because it was so buggy. But oh well, they're working on it. So, but at any rate, I'm not too critical, but I'm somewhat critical of Windows. But I am impressed with where they have been lately and where it looks like they're going, and I think that, you know, I see effort being put in, and I respect that they're putting at this point with the market share that they have. They're putting in effort, and they probably don't have to. So I think that's pretty impressive.
Critical of Windows, you've never actually used Windows. So, I mean, that's, that's, everybody's critical of Windows. But yes, the fact that they're actually, we've talked about it with what they're doing with Edge, what they're doing with Windows 10, what they're doing now with Microsoft 365. I guess since Bill left, they care about security.
Yeah,
it's like
they care more. Well,
Windows doesn't suck balls.
To be fair, the entire industry cares more about security. The consumer cares more about security, but still, with the market share that they had, or that they have, and really, I mean, Mac has picked up a little bit, but I mean, at the cost differential, I mean, they really just weren't. Their market share is just really not that much in danger. So, they really didn't have to do it, and I'm impressed by that, the fact that they're doing it. And I do use Windows. I have to. I don't have a choice.
Oh yeah, and that's kind of, I mean, you can avoid using Windows in your day-to-day life, but it's a rare person who can avoid using it entirely.
Yeah.
Whether it's at work or it's at home or whatever, or your Xbox, because your Xbox is basically Windows 10s.
Or you just have to know how to use it because everybody else does, and you got to know.
Right.
You got to know how to use the machine to do forensics on the machine. And if you think that you don't, then in my opinion, you're not doing it right. But I mean, plenty of people do forensics on Mac that really don't use them ever. But whatever. That's
you may not have had a cheap SDR, but you'd still have to be able to know how to tell your mom to get the flashing 12 off.
Right? Yeah, right. Exactly. So, but yeah, so I think, we should probably wrap up. This is the second Monday in a row that we finished on time, which is like blowing my mind.
What we had was the businesses doing port scanning, as a security feature, but that we can say that for another time. That's not
that's actually really interesting. We can talk about that. I'm fine talking about that because it was a huge InfoSec debate and a lot of the guys and girls, me included a little bit, because I mean it's a big part of it's a big part of what we do for a lot of different reasons, and I mean even if you're just like doing threat analysis, you're going to port scans. I'll say this. So first of all, the Nord published an article that said that port scanning was illegal. It is not. Port scanning is not illegal. Like, if you probe further in than the port, then you're you're walking on thin ice there, but port scanning is not an illegal thing, and if it was, I'd be a criminal because because I've done it to people that are trying to hack our site. I'm not ashamed of that because it's not illegal. But what were you going to say about it, Horty?
Well, this came from Bleeping Computer, and this is they covered 16 major websites that port scan you when you visit your website. When you visit their website, it's everything from TD Ameritrade to Chick-fil-A to eBay, and it all depends on the level of where they do it. And what they're doing is they're scanning your ports, looking for the most common ports that signify that your computer is compromised, that it's either for illegal purchasing or illegal, finding is, transferring funds of your bank account, so on and so forth. And some of the websites scan your ports when you go right to the website. eBay is one of them. Bank of America and a couple others. The second you touch their homepage, whether you try to log in or not, they scan you. Other ones are when you try to do login, and then Bed Bath & Beyond and some others, they do it only during the checkout. And it's a nice security feature. A lot of people, the intrusiveness is a little, but it's how websites are protecting you from somebody else hijacking your computer to buy a whole bunch of shit.
Yeah.
Or like I said, to clean out your bank account or whatever. Interesting thing that I found was that in the base of the browsers that it scans, that out of all the browsers they tested, only Firefox prevented the port scanning. All of the other ones, with your default protections on, all of the other ones allowed it. Even Edge allowed it, but Firefox didn't.
Impressive. Yeah,
so,
impressive. And it can be it can be a bit intrusive. I think this is a good example of how digital law, the law and technology, has a very hard time keeping up with the actual technology, because this is port scanning. I think it's probably going to be in the next round of CFAA. I would not be surprised at all, and they'll write some, like the rest of the CFAA. They'll the computer fraud and
you just caught me. I put it on that one.
I know, right? Total bright. The Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Thank you, Brain. And so
good brain.
Yeah, they add to it originally I think 1986, and they add to it like every few years, and it started out convoluted, and it just gets more convoluted and worse. We need a law, obviously, for computer crime, but this is just, it drives me absolutely nuts. And it's been misused a lot over the years. The Trump administration did a good job of putting administrative controls in so that it can't be abused by overzealous prosecutors the way that it has been in the past. But those can change with the next president, so they really need to do something about it. But I predict that this kind of thing.
Go ahead. No. I would say it's like with DMCA copyright strikes. Yes. It's like, Jess, you're in chat. Didn't you get DMCA'd twice on Twitter for singing a song? That's kind of one of your things, is your Christmas. But anyway, yeah. So, excuse me. So yeah, the abuse of the digital millennium. Anyway, yes, the DMCA, and I just brain farted, even though I know I said it a couple minutes ago. The abuse of it on YouTube and other platforms, that's another one that the law actually needs to be updated, because the people who are using DMCA strikes are absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. absolutely. And because that was.
Oh, she was doing lip syncing with doggos, and she's gotten 2 DMCA strikes against her on Twitter.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It was written for totally different mediums, and it needs to be updated. And the CFAA is a monster, and it's crazy. But at least it's less likely to be abused during the Trump administration because of that. But another administration could come in and change those administrative guidelines and make it even worse. But I do predict that port scanning is going to get addressed in some CFAA revision at some point because it's talked about a lot.
Yeah, it's like Jeff said in chat too, is that, the people who write tech laws are Neanderthals when it comes to actual tech. We joked about it during the last election too, when Trump would call it the cyber.
But that's cute. But it's not, and it's not. So they're written. He's right. They're written by Neanderthals, and then they're applied by Neanderthals, and then they're interpreted by Neanderthals, and then they're overturned by Neanderthals in the appeals court. It's Neanderthal after Neanderthal after Neanderthal. And I've actually read today an opinion from I think it was a Fourth Circuit. I think it was a Fourth Circuit federal appeals court that actually sounded like they knew what they were talking about. And I think it's like a 3-year-old opinion. They actually sounded like they knew what they were talking about. It's U.S. versus Cotterman, if anybody wants to look at it. But I'm sure you probably don't. So let's wrap up.
Yeah, the number of actual good tech lawyers out there could...
Yeah, no, and the judges are the worst. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
but
judges are the worst.
Yeah, good luck finding a judge that knows shit about...
And the thing is that these are the ones that are hearing copyright infringement cases. It's just kind of like, you see all these things, about these rulings on intellectual property regarding software or anything like that, and you're just like, how could you have possibly come to that decision?
Exactly.
Anyway, yeah.
So this code is the same. That code's used everywhere. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. All right.
Yeah. Well, let's use Zoom for our courtrooms.
Do you want me to scream?
Okay. All right, let's wrap up with that. We depressed everybody else at the start. I'm depressing you at the end. We've come full circle.
Yeah, I know. I actually, not talking about Zoom. Love you guys. Thanks for tuning in and sticking with us for a whole extra 8 minutes. And we don't know what we're going to talk about next week, but hopefully we'll find something as fun as this week. Right, Gordy? So tell me.
Yeah, this was a blast. Yeah, as much as I love doing APTs and doing, cybersecurity threats, sometimes I do like to come a little bit closer to home and talk about our own threats against ourselves and our freedoms.
Well said. Well said, Mr. Amish Man. Tell everybody where you're going to be this week.
Well, this week I'm going to be on FUBAR, One Nation Under Fu on Wednesday. Follow that up. I can assume that I am going to be on Robinson and Horty because Dan is still an essential employee. I'm on Culture Shift with Brad on Thursday, and then circling back around to be with Fu on Monday. Where can people find you, Lou?
Well, I'm producing, but you've already named all the shows that I'm producing. Tomorrow night, Aggie is He Said, She Said with Blowtorch. Mickey Blowtorch. Yeah, Mickey Blowtorch. And then Friday night with Aggie and Vod doing our silly girl thing we do. So
fantastic.
Yep. And if you missed it, because some people did, my @ on Twitter is now Cyber Red Stick, and we talked about that I think on a previous show. But so if you're tagging me, you got to tag me there. We love you guys. Thanks so much for joining us, and hope you had a blast. And when you think about the government spying on you, just remember they're also spying on Antifa. Love you guys. Good night. Say good night, Orty.
Hail Hydra. Hail Hydra.